Well, the Nintendo Switch is now officially 7 years old. You know, this little guy's been on the market since I was 8, and having had it since December 2017, it's guaranteed had a big imprint on my childhood and the games I've played, and I'm pretty confident that that's a similar story for a lot of other people. This is Nintendo's best-selling home console ever. It's not even close. Hell, the Switch is the third best-selling console ever in general. Everybody that I know, from family to friends, to people who don't even care about Nintendo or gaming much, they have this system. And it's been really cool to watch Nintendo go from attempting and failing to get people to join into a cult, to having something so successful it feels like it's on the same level as a smartphone. But all of that is to say, where do they go from here? Most modern consoles last 7 years. If you're lucky, you may get 8, but a Switch successor has already been all but confirmed for 2024, which has many, including myself, asking the question of how do you keep up the momentum from this? And I don't really know how to answer that, but by looking at everything I think made the Switch great, as well as some of its faults, we can perhaps pick and choose the attributes that would make a great Switch 2. But of course, that raises the question of will Nintendo's next console even be the Switch 2? Yes, of course. Look, I'm only going by rumors here, but almost all of them call it the Switch 2, and even entirely disregarding rumors, look! If I'm wrong, but everything points to their next console being a better Switch, so with that in mind, we can knock a few obvious checkboxes out the way. Backwards compatibility is a must in my opinion. I want to be able to play all these amazing games on my new console, especially if they do call it the Switch 2. Better battery life, minor hardware tweaks that make it just a tad better. No controller drift this time, please, eh? Slightly bigger screen, but nothing game-changing. When I think of a Switch 2 hardware, I'm basically thinking of the jump from Switch to Switch OLED, which is to say undeniably better, but still extremely familiar and sleek. You don't want to switch with like a 60% larger screen, because then you're chipping away at the portability factor that makes this thing as cool as it is. The only main hardware difference that I think should be super substantial is the specs. Now, the rumors say that Switch 2 won't be matching Series X and PS5 levels, and rather be more akin to PS4 and Xbox One power-wise. And while initially it was annoying to read that, the more I thought about it, the more I realized it literally does not matter. The people who care about playing more intensive games, they have a gaming PC, or a Series X or PS5. For what reason does Mario or Splatoon or Pokemon need 4K 120 frames per second? Well, maybe Pokemon could benefit. I'm not saying I'd be complaining if Switch 2 matched the modern console's power levels, I'm just saying it's not a necessity. Nintendo consoles aren't bought for high specs, they're bought for the games, and most of them do just fine with the Switch's current power level. PS4 level power would be more than a substantial jump. We don't need, like, ray tracing. But, speaking of games, which ones do I want to see on the Switch 2? I think the game lineup on Switch was undoubtedly the best part of the console. I mean, 2023 alone, one of the last years for the system, still had a brand new Mario, Pikmin, and Zelda, as well as remasters and remakes of beloved games from the company's past. Safe to say, even in the Switch's worst years, Nintendo had no shortage of great content for consumers, and many of the company's franchises that hadn't gotten entries in years got renewed here. Some bigger than others, some more exciting than others, but still, it's just cool seeing almost all of Nintendo's series get represented on this console. But not all. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to the masses acting like I care about Star Fox. But why didn't it get an entry on Switch? Why not a new Punch-Out? That would have been pretty cool. What about Starfy? What about my baby? I'm not trying to sound too demanding about it, it's just clear Nintendo saw the Switch as the perfect place to revive certain game series that hadn't seen the proper light of day in a while, so why not give these games a shot too? But it's nothing huge, just for the Switch 2, I'd like to see Nintendo continue what they did with their Switch output, that being releasing brand new, innovative, genuine system-selling games, as well as returns to classics and remakes/remasters of older games, but add on the little but notable stuff we're missing. Like, did we really need 4 fitness boxings instead of a Rhythm Heaven Man? Keeping with games though, another great aspect about the Switch that I hope continues into Switch 2 is the abundant amount of indie games. Considering, like I said, people buying the Switch don't really care about super detailed high-end games, and since Nintendo is so lax with letting literally anything go on the eShop, maybe to a fault, the Switch has become the one-stop shop for indie games to flourish. There are many indie games that do best on Switch. There are many indie games that have Switch as their only console, and I love it. It gives the Switch a very cozy vibe, while also obviously giving the console an even more expansive and exclusive library. Keep it up. One more thing though, which is the Nintendo Switch Online retro games. I think they should definitely stay. I've never been huge on them. They're probably honestly just there to get people to ignore paying $20 for mediocre online that used to be free. But while I liked and kinda miss Virtual Console, this is just so much better, quicker, convenient, and while it's not in-depth at all, it's fine enough, and I think it, as well as the indie games and first-party lineup, really make the Switch feel like a central hub for gaming in general, and that's sick. That being said, I really wish they had added GameCube to the roster, and I hope to see it on Switch too. I mean, I know why they didn't. It's the hot retro game system right now, so it made more sense to remake Metroid Prime or remaster Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door individually for near full price, rather than put them together in NSO for the same or cheaper, but it would just be nice to see. And also, I never tapped into the NSO expansion pack, but if more Rhythm Heaven Pleas are allowed, then shame on you, Nintendo, for not adding Rhythm Tengoku to the Game Boy Advance NSO roster. What else to talk about other than those things? UI. I like the Switch UI. I see a lot of people say it's very boring and has no character, especially compared to the predecessor, the Wii U. And they're not wrong, but I don't necessarily want to go back to this. I think the ease of use of the Switch's menu compared to the Wii U and competition more than makes up for the minimalism, but I still wouldn't mind a bit of pizzazz. I'm certainly not creative enough to actually make an entire conceptual Switch 2 UI design, but just something simple like the option to have some background music would be nice. It could be extremely sterile having this and only this staring back at you for hours, so maybe a little ambience or tunes from Nintendo's older systems interfaces would be good. Also, I'm not saying anything new here, but you can't have an entire dedicated themes area for the console UI and then only have black and white be the options for 7 years. There's no reason I'm able to invert my system-wide colors, but I can't have purple as my background for the menu. Seriously, what good does that do someone? Price! Switch 2 is rumored to be $400. Pretty fine by me. I think the Switch being $300 at launch and then later $200 starting MSRP with the Switch Lite undoubtedly helped with its widespread success, since it was the cheapest console on the market. If Switch 2 is to start at $400, it would be matching the PS5 Digital Edition and actually be $100 more expensive than the Xbox Series S. So while I don't have an issue paying $400 for it, it'll be interesting to see if that price causes some drops in sales from consumers picking the competing consoles that are similarly priced but more powerful. Although Switch 2 will probably also have a price ladder like the original did and how the modern consoles do today, I'm sure some people find the Switch Lite and Switch OLED as kinda pointless, but I love the options Nintendo gave us as consumers and would love to see a similar thing done with the Switch 2. And in my head, that's about it. There's other things I could discuss, like how this button sucks, and how the Switch 2 box art better live up to how perfect Switch box art is, but by and large, what I mentioned is what I love and what I want to see on the next console, and believe me when I use that word, because I really do love this thing. It has been such a fun time living and growing up with this console, experiencing the excitement of the new releases, seeing all the press, including the blunders, watching the sales go up, and seeing this console become one of the most popular of all time. We still have probably around a year left of Switch, and I'm gonna miss this thing once it becomes old news, but regardless, the time is now to look ahead, and I'm ready to see what Nintendo's had cooking up the past 7 years. Let's hope it doesn't disappoint.